The 3 tips about getting back on track with your weight loss goals that helped this woman so much in the middle of 7-Eleven. She opened her arms and gave me a massive hug. And this is not about me, it's about God's work in and through me. But I'm thinking if she felt that helped by this, that you might too, because I know that her story is so much like so many of our stories. And I know that her story is like so many of the women that come to me. And so these 3 things helped her so much that at the end of a 5-minute conversation in the middle of 7-Eleven, she hugged me. It was a blessing for me, a blessing for her. In fact, before I get into the 3, at the very end, she said, "God bless you." And I said, "He does every day, sis." Like that was just a divine appointment. And so here we go. Let me tell you how it came about so that you understand the framework and the perspective that set the stage for me to give her the 3 tips. I never give people unsolicited advice in the middle of 7-Eleven or anywhere, right? You have to want to hear and be ready to receive. And I stopped at 7-Eleven on my way back from a workout. I was planning on going through this car wash that's right there. So I just grabbed a coffee from 7-Eleven, and while we were standing next to the coffee, she looked at me, she goes, "Can I tell you something?" And I said, "Of course." She said, "I saw you and I just immediately want to get back on track with the gym." And I said, "Oh, thank you. I appreciate that." And she started to tell me her story. She said, "I used to be in such good routine with my daughter. We were going consistently and I felt so good. And we stopped going. And I've put on over 20 pounds since then. And I just don't feel comfortable. And I really want to get back on track, but I've just been struggling with getting there." And part of her story was that she feels like she's tired, she doesn't have as much energy, and therefore it's hard to get motivated to go to the gym. She shared that she has had 2 knee replacements, and those knee replacements were make her feel as if she can't do what she used to do. And she shared, she's like, "Not that I want to, like, I'm not going to get to where you are, but I just want to feel good again. I want to lose the 20 pounds. I want to be able to move well." She said, "I'm in my late 60s. I don't have those expectations, but I just want to feel good and lose the 20 pounds." And this was a back and forth conversation, but I want to kind of dial it in for you. She also shared that in the course of our conversation that she's like, "I've done this 2 or 3 times." She said, "I have lost the 20 pounds and put it back on." She said, "At one point I lost 50 pounds and I put it back on. I've been through this 2 or 3 times, and this time I'm really having a hard time getting back on track." And so I'm going to share with you what I shared with her that prompted her to give me this massive hug, which was such a blessing at the end. The first thing is think about what it's costing you. Like I explained to her, I hear that you feel like you don't have time. I hear that you feel like you don't have the energy and therefore you're not moving. And now, mind you, you don't actually have to be going to a gym. This was her specific goal because she knows that for her, that's a catalyst in being consistent and helping her lose the weight. It's not all about workouts. It's actually not all, that's for another day. And, so I encouraged her to think about what it's costing her to be where she's at. And then what I mean by that is when we start to fall off track, something has happened that was probably really minor in the beginning, and yet we've normalized the minor, and then something else happens and we normalize that minor, right? And so then before we know it, it's a slippery slope is the expression I use with my clients, and we can find ourselves, in that situation where you're putting the 20 pounds on. I'll tell you how to prevent that in just a minute without, the no more going, losing the 20 pounds, gaining it back, losing 50 pounds, gaining it back. That's actually for tomorrow's. I'll share a little bit on that in tomorrow's live. The tomorrow's live is the 7 tragic mistakes that women make that keep you from ever losing the weight for good, right? So that's tomorrow, the 7 mistakes. But these 3 things are how to get back on track. And when we fall off track, a lot of times it's, like I said, a slippery slope. And then we've normalized where we are at. So we've forgotten, or we're not paying attention to, or we're avoiding what it's actually costing us to feel uncomfortable in our own body, to feel the extra fatigue, to feel like we're not moving well, right? And so thinking about the cost is what I encouraged her. Think about, I hear you that you feel like you do not have time. How much time would you buy back if you felt better than you do now? How much time would you buy back if you felt like you moved more? What is it costing you to feel and move the way you are today? Really think about how it is showing up, how it is negatively impacting and showing up every aspect of life. And when not from a position of, this is super careful, do not fall into condemnation. That would be the enemy trying to, and your own stinking thinking. But as I teach my clients, it's becoming that student of your mind and body to learn. And there's a whole process behind that. But to be able to learn how to just observe thoughts and behaviors from the position of being a student without condemnation, just what serves me, what doesn't, what gets to shift to bridge the gap, right? And I wasn't able to go into all that detail with her. However, it's thinking about the cost allows you to get real with yourself, to start to build the, not even the it's not, it won't feel like motivation potentially, but it'll help you build the decision to go. And what I explained to her is that if you can even just consistently go for 2 weeks, just trick your brain and tell your brain, I'm going to do this consistently for 2 weeks. Sis, I promise you will start to feel better. I also shared with her, so the second thing was actually the feeling of being tired is being tired because you're not moving in that way, because you're not taking care of yourself. It creates a lot of additional and unnecessary fatigue. So it's the chicken before the egg analogy. When you start to move more, movement actually creates the energy, the right kind of movement, right? And what I also explained to her is that a lot of times it is a journey, right? We all come through iterations. I myself, full transparency, am coming out of a season where I didn't realize that I had started to backslide a little bit in terms of my version of my best self, my version of how I show up the best. And so 2 weeks of just being really consistent with my workouts and I feel so much better, right? And one of the things she shared is being over 60. And I said, I'm going to be 50 this year. And yes, I'm grateful for where I am. I'm 20 years into my process of training and being healthy and my original transformation. And, um, and also at this season, part of the driver to be consistent in movement, intentional movement, is because I want to be well able into my 90s. Amen. And she's like, yeah, that's so true. And she said, I feel like if we don't use it, we lose it. And I said, I just affirmed that for her. I said, that's 100% true. If we don't use it, we lose it. So when you think about the intentional movement, when you think about mobility, you want to be in action for yourself with those things, because if you aren't, things do get stiff. They do start to not work as well as they used to because you're not using them, right? And then the last, it ties back to that. She was saying that she had 2 knee replacement surgeries and that she can't physically do the things she used to be able to do. And I just encouraged her, do what you can. There's so many other things that can be done. So to summarize, the first thing that I told her was think about the cost, right? Think about the cost of how you're feeling right now and just get real with yourself. Do you want to still be that way? Or are you going to step into doing something different so that you can get a different result? And then the second was understanding that being tired is like it's a chicken before the egg, right? Once you start moving more, it creates more energy. Intentional movement, it will create more energy. And the third is do what you can. And there's so many more things that we could have talked about, but in this 5-minute conversation. It was a beautiful interaction, and I'm so grateful that God told me to go to that gas station at that time, or you can, call it what it is or what you want it to call it, but I love to, consider those things as God moments. Um, what I did not get to share with her that ties to tomorrow's live is, notice she had said that she's done this 2 or 3 times, and I shared with her, like, health and fitness, what I share with my clients is that it's a marathon, not a sprint, and it's not always perfect, and we have up and down fluctuations. This is what I didn't get to go into this with her. However, those huge swings, losing 20 pounds, putting 20 pounds back on, putting 30 pounds back on, losing 50 pounds, and gaining it all back, those big shifts, those big cycles, it does not need to be your story. There is a way to create sustainable lifestyle without giving up your favorite foods or spending hours at the gym, no matter how many times you feel you have failed in the past. No matter if you currently feel like you're struggling with emotional eating and you've been struggling for a long time, that was my story too. No matter what the circumstance is, I promise you that sustainable weight loss and looking and feeling your absolute best is 100% unequivocally not only possible, but it's actually your kingdom right? That's actually what God wants for us. And there's so many things that come against us that I'm not going to go into in this video. But tomorrow, I will be sharing the 7 tragic mistakes that Christian women unknowingly make that keep you from ever losing the weight for good. So, if you plan to join me tomorrow and or want to catch the replay, comment below. Let me know if this was helpful. I would love for you to, if you feel like this is helpful, like, subscribe. I'm going to be more diligent about this channel because I realized I spend a lot of time on YouTube. And so I would love to connect and interact and serve you in a way that honors God, to equip and empower you to be at your best physically. Kingdom fit is the term God gave me within the last year or so, as an evolution in my own journey. But the kingdom fit is to describe that we truly are meant to be fiercely fit in mind, body, and spirit, that we get to reclaim our sovereignty and our authority over our mind, body, and spirit. The enemy, it is one of the biggest schemes of the enemy to try and minimize what is for us, to minimize the discomfort and dis-ease to in our own physical body, to use food as the temptation that is so subtle that he flies under the radar for years and decades, right? That he uses that struggle to leverage and amplify our discouragement and distraction just enough to keep you hindered from all that God has for you, and so much more. But let's start tomorrow with the 7 tragic mistakes that Christian women make that will keep you from ever losing the weight for good. Let me know if you're joining me. Hit like, subscribe, share if you feel like this was helpful, and I'll see you soon.